Ladies and gentlemen, you are cognizant of that incessant voice within your mind, the one that persists in articulating thoughts incessantly. What if I were to inform you that it is not, in fact, your authentic self? Every time you assume you're generating those thoughts, you're actually attuning to something far more substantial, something concealed in plain sight. Remain with me, as the forthcoming revelations will profoundly alter the manner in which you experience your mind, your thoughts, and your very existence. Let's conjointly uncover the veracity. The voice within your cranium, is it genuinely you? From the moment you open your eyes in the morning, the voice in your head springs into action, commencing with straightforward queries such as what should I consume for breakfast, or do I possess sufficient time to accomplish everything today? As the day progresses, it intensifies, pondering why I uttered that during yesterday's meeting, or what if I bungle this presentation, or what will they think of me if I fail? It's a constant torrent of verbiage, inundating every tranquil moment with cacophony. This voice appears to be an integral component of your being, so intricately intertwined with your daily experiences that you likely presuppose it is, in fact, you. However, let's pause for an instant. Is it genuinely so? Have you ever had a thought that surprised you, perhaps a random, bizarre idea that seemed to emanate from nowhere, or maybe a recollection you hadn't contemplated in years? When those thoughts manifested, did you consciously elect them, or did they simply occur? The veracity is that you didn't fabricate that thought, you merely heard it. The voice in your head isn't something you control, it's something you listen to. It's analogous to a radio station broadcasting in the background of your life, incessantly disseminating messages, regardless of whether you appreciate them or not. However, here's the twist: just because you hear the voice doesn't imply it's conveying the truth. This inner voice isn't invariably your ally, sometimes it's your most scathing critic, rehashing your mistakes, magnifying your fears, and concocting worst-case scenarios that haven't even transpired yet. The more you listen to it, the more you believe it, and you become ensnared in its narratives, convinced they're real. Yet, once you realize this voice isn't, in fact, you acquire the potency to scrutinize it, and that's where everything commences to transform. The source of your thoughts, a silent truth puppeteer. Where do your thoughts originate from? If the voice in your head isn't genuinely you, then where does it emanate from? The answer resides deep within your subconscious mind. Envision your brain as a colossal supercomputer, perpetually processing information behind the scenes. Your subconscious mind is the operating system. It assimilates everything you've experienced and every conviction you've absorbed, utilizing that data to generate the thoughts you hear. However, here's where it becomes convoluted: your subconscious doesn't invariably operate in your favor. Its primary function is to maintain your safety, not necessarily your happiness. It filters your thoughts through the lens of survival. Let's say you've had a calamitous experience with public speaking. Your subconscious recollects that sensation of mortification or failure and fabricates thoughts like, what if I bungle it again, or I'm not adept at this. These thoughts aren't grounded in reality, they're rooted in trepidation. That's why the voice in your head often fixates on the negative. It's endeavoring to safeguard you by preparing you for the worst. Yet, in doing so, it constrains you, keeping you ensnared in antiquated patterns, rehashing the same fears and doubts ad infinitum, like a record on repeat. Unless you cognize what's transpiring, you'll continue to dance to the same tune. What's even more fascinating is that numerous of these thoughts aren't even your own, they're influenced by external factors: society, family, culture. Ponder the convictions you harbor regarding success, relationships, or even yourself. How many of those convictions did you consciously elect, and how many were programmed into you by the world around you? The voice in your head is akin to a puppet, with your subconscious mind pulling the strings. However, the glad tidings are that once you become cognizant of this, you can commence cutting those strings and reclaim control. Why we're addicted to listening to ourselves. If the voice in your head frequently precipitates stress, doubt, and negativity, why do we persist in listening to it? Why can't we simply deactivate it? The answer resides in something surprisingly straightforward: we're addicted to it. Listening to our thoughts affords us a sense of identity. Even when the voice is critical, it reinforces who we think we are. If the voice asserts you're not good enough, we believe it because it aligns with the narrative we've been recounting to ourselves for years. This narrative becomes our comfort zone. Even if it's distressing, it's familiar, akin to wearing an old, uncomfortable pair of shoes. They hurt, but they're known to us. On top of that, the voice in your head is remarkably persuasive. It doesn't merely state facts, it weaves narratives, telling you why you failed, why people don't like you, or why you'll never succeed. These stories feel real because they're tethered to your emotions. The more you engage with them, the more potent they become. It's a cycle: the voice speaks, you react, and your reaction feeds the voice. However, here's the thing: you don't have to listen. The voice is loud because it craves your attention, but you possess the potency to tune it out. Think of it like sitting by a busy road. The cars are perpetually passing by, but you don't have to chase after them, you can simply observe. This straightforward act of observing the voice without engaging is the inaugural step toward breaking free from its grasp. The illusion of control: why we think the voice is us. One of the most captivating traps of the mind is its capacity to convince you that you're in control of your thoughts. These are my thoughts, you tell yourself, so they must represent who I am. However, let's scrutinize this more closely. If you were genuinely in control of your thoughts, wouldn't you invariably think positively? Wouldn't you elect clarity, confidence, and peace of mind every time? The fact that your thoughts often spiral into fear, doubt, and self-criticism is proof that they're not entirely under your control. This illusion of control exists because the voice in your head masquerades as you, utilizing phrases like I am, should, or I need, attaching itself to your identity. For instance, the thought I'm not good enough doesn't feel like just a random idea, it feels like a fact about who you are. The mind employs this strategy to render the voice more convincing. However, once you cognize this pattern, you can commence breaking free from it. The voice ensures you remain engaged with its chatter, but here's the veracity: the voice isn't you, it's simply a function of your brain, much like your heartbeat or digestion. You don't consciously pump your heart or process your food, it simply happens. Similarly, your thoughts arise on their own, shaped by past experiences, fear, and conditioning. Just as you wouldn't define yourself by your heartbeat, you don't have to define yourself by your thoughts. Recognizing this illusion of control is remarkably liberating. It enables you to step back and observe the voice without identifying with it. When you realize the voice is simply a mental habit, not a reflection of your true self, you commence reclaiming your potency. You're no longer a prisoner of your mind, you become its observer. The cost of listening: how the voice limits your potential. Let's discuss the cost of listening to that voice in your head. Every time you engage with its narratives, you reinforce its power over you. Imagine you have a novel idea for a creative project, but before you can take a step forward, the voice interjects: what if it fails? What will people think? You're not talented enough. If you believe those thoughts, you'll likely abandon the idea before even attempting it. The voice has effectively hindered you from realizing your potential. This pattern plays out in every sphere of life: relationships, careers, health. The voice magnifies your fears and doubts, keeping you ensnared in your comfort zone. It convinces you that staying safe is better than taking risks, even when those risks could lead to growth and fulfillment. However, the true cost isn't merely missed opportunities, it's the erosion of self-trust. Every time you listen to the voice instead of following your intuition, you lose a bit of faith in yourself. Over time, this creates a cycle of self-doubt that becomes increasingly difficult to break. The good tidings are that you don't need to silence the voice entirely to move forward, you simply need to cease believing it. When the voice asserts you can't do this, you can acknowledge it without letting it control you. Instead of reacting with fear, respond with curiosity. Why do I feel this way? Is this thought even pertinent or true? This slight shift in perspective can unlock doors you didn't even realize were closed. The power of awareness, observing the voice without judgment. And here's where transformation commences: awareness. The moment you become cognizant of the voice in your head, it commences losing its grip. Imagine flipping on a light in a dark room. The shadows that once seemed so menacing are suddenly revealed for what they are: illusions. When you observe the voice without judgment, you reclaim your potency. You're no longer a passive listener, you become an active witness to your thoughts, a potent step toward freedom and self-mastery. When we commence seeing our thoughts for what they genuinely are, just shadows, a novel awareness arises. Awareness doesn't imply combating the voice or endeavoring to silence it. In fact, resistance often renders it louder. Instead, awareness is about simply observing the voice without judgment. When a thought arises, you merely notice it. Ah, there's that fear of failure again, interesting. By observing your thoughts in this manner, you create a rift between yourself and the voice. You become the watcher, not the participant. This practice of awareness is remarkably potent because it shifts your focus from the content of your thoughts to the process of thinking itself. You commence recognizing the patterns and triggers that drive your inner dialogue. For instance, you may notice the voice becomes louder when you're fatigued or under stress. This awareness affords you the capacity to respond to the voice with compassion rather than criticism. Over time, this straightforward practice of observation can lead to profound changes in how you experience life. You realize you don't have to believe everything you think. You can elect which thoughts to engage with and which ones to relinquish. And that choice is where true freedom resides. The shift, reclaiming your true self. When you cease identifying with the voice in your head, a remarkable shift commences to transpire. You start to discover who you are beyond your thoughts. It's akin to peeling back layers of an onion to reveal its core. Your true self isn't the critical voice that asserts you're not good enough. It's not the fearful voice that worries about the future or the regretful voice that dwells on the past. Your true self is the awareness behind those voices. It's the tranquil presence that observes without judgment. It's the stillness that exists even in the midst of chaos. This realization is liberating because it frees you from the narratives the voice has been recounting to you. You commence seeing yourself not as a collection of thoughts and labels but as something more profound, something limitless and unchanging. This shift isn't merely a change in perspective, it's a return to your natural state of being. Reclaiming your true self doesn't imply the voice in your head will vanish. It will still chatter away, but it will no longer define you. Instead of being controlled by the voice, you'll learn to utilize it as a tool, a servant, not a master. And by doing so, you'll unlock the door to a life of peace, clarity, and purpose. Practical steps to break free from the voice. Understanding the voice in your head is one thing, but breaking free from it is another. Here are some practical steps to help you reclaim your mind. Practice mindfulness. Dedicate a few minutes each day to sitting in silence, focusing on your breath or a simple mantra. When thoughts arise, let them pass without attaching to them. This practice helps cultivate awareness and detachment from the voice. Question your thoughts. When the voice articulates something negative, ask yourself, is this true? Is this helpful? More often than not, the answer will be no. This straightforward act of questioning can weaken the power of the voice. Shift your focus to the present. The voice thrives in the past and future, but it struggles in the present moment. Engage your senses, notice the sights, sounds, and sensations around you. This pulls you out of the mind's chatter and into the here and now. Write it down. Sometimes the best way to deal with the voice is to get it out of your head and onto paper. Journaling can help you see your thoughts more clearly and put them into perspective. Seek support. Breaking free from the voice is a journey, and it's okay to ask for help. Whether it's through therapy, meditation groups, or self-help books, surrounding yourself with support can make a significant difference. These steps aren't about silencing the voice, they're about changing your relationship with it. Over time, you'll find the voice becomes less intrusive and more manageable, and as it fades into the background, your true self will commence shining through. One of the most significant breakthroughs you can have is realizing you are not your thoughts. For most people, this concept feels almost impossible to grasp, as thoughts are so deeply intertwined with experiences and emotions. However, the veracity is that your thoughts are simply ephemeral patterns of energy, automatic processes created by the brain. They arise, exist for a moment, and then disappear, just like clouds passing through the sky. Let's dissect it further. Imagine standing by a river. The river represents your mind, and the flowing water represents your thoughts. Most of us jump into the river, grabbing onto each thought as it flows by, and identifying with it as if it's part of who we are. This is my thought, we say, and we hold on to it tightly, even if it causes us pain. However, what happens when you step out of the river? When you stop identifying with your thoughts, you commence seeing them for what they genuinely are, temporary, ever-changing, and often irrelevant to who you truly are. This shift in perspective enables you to cease reacting to your thoughts and commence observing them. For instance, when the voice in your head asserts you're not good enough, instead of accepting it as fact, you can simply acknowledge it and let it go. Ah, there's that thought again, interesting. This practice of detachment doesn't imply ignoring your thoughts. Instead, it means you no longer let them define you. You recognize you're something beyond your thoughts. You're the awareness that observes them. You're the observer, not the thinker. Final thoughts, and once you realize this, a profound sense of freedom emerges. You no longer feel controlled by the narratives your mind creates. You commence living from a place of clarity and peace.